Hello and welcome to the second instalment of the Cricket Field End podcast with me, Dan.
And me, Pete.
Today we're going to talk about all the four games that we forementioned at the end of the first podcast, resulting in Bournemouth, Burton, Cardiff and Huddersfield.
I will start by saying I apologise if you hear me coughing and spluttering through this because I'm a bit smothered at the minute, so you have to bear with my coughs and splutters through this. So we'll get that out of the way first. I think just to mention first and foremost, we are now on Facebook. You've probably seen the page, but we really do appreciate your support. If you head over to Facebook, just search for the Cricket Field End. We're on there as well. So the content that we post on Twitter also goes onto our Facebook page. As from Friday, we will be running a competition, so keep your eyes peeled for that as well.
So we start, Pete, with Bournemouth.
Yeah, strange one, weren't it? I don't think there's anybody who'd have expected a 4-0. Certainly I didn't before the game, and we were talking. Yeah, it was a worry. We were bottom of the table, -7 goal difference, and I uttered those, famous last words where you say, "We're not a team who are 3-4, 5-0. We don't turn goal differences around that well." I remember the last time we had a 3-4, 5-0. The last one I can remember was probably MK Dons in the Championship title winning season. And you go and beat a team who've got they've flown out of the traps this season, haven't they?
They have, yeah. Bournemouth obviously started pretty well, and the week before just managed to grind out the result against Leicester with a 4-3 win.
Yeah, it was a strange one.
3-2, I think. Right?
No, 4-3, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because they pulled a couple back later on, didn't they? And you just sort of think, they flew out the traps. They were scoring goals for fun. And like we mentioned in the last podcast that we did, Wilson, Fraser, King, they looked really good, and they looked a decent setup. But for all the possession that they have, I don't think they ever really looked threatened.
No, and it's like you say about the podcast, the goal difference. Sorry, it's looking a lot better now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's looking a bit more healthy, and I think that worry is that when you're -7, you're bottom of the league, and probably a bit low on confidence. We needed that result, just something just to kick-start, and the chance that we had weren't exactly many in numbers, but the chance that we did have, we took, and it all just seemed to click. Like I say, we're a team who are quite happy with 30-40% possession. Let teams come at us. We'll quite happily, generally speaking, quite happily defend. But something just happened. I think Dyche mentioned that he'd had a bit of a heart-to-heart with them during the week prior to the game, and clearly something clicked, and everything just seemed to go right against Bournemouth.
Yeah, every single player actually put a shift in on that on the pitch that day. The wingers, for a start, in the previous games had been lacking. Defence, there was barely any costly errors. Up front, we took our chances, which was something we wanted to happen. And also, something you wanted to happen was, well, you said it's coming. You can see us getting a big result, and that's what happened.
I must admit, I've been saying it for about 18 months, 2 years. I think I've been saying it since the MK Dons game. But, yeah, there's a team who I think we have been waiting to give a team a hiding like that. And, nice to see a clean sheet, nice to see Barnes get 2 of them. I read somewhere that it's the first time he scored 2 in a game for Burnley, which I wasn't aware of. That's a stat that was news to me. But great to see, like you say, the likes of Lennon. He put a shift in again. Goodmanson looks back to form, and you just think this is the kind of spark we've been needing since July, really. Since the start of the Europa campaign. It's obviously had its toll on us, but something just seemed to click against Bournemouth. It was, admittedly, certainly not a spectacle. We're not saying it was free-flowing football, but with 4, maybe 5 chances and scored 4 goals.
Yeah,
you just can't argue with that at all.
No, it's like you say, it's part of Dyche's mantra kind of thing, isn't it? The way we go about it, like you say, lack of possession. We don't have much of it. Shots wise, we don't really get that many in, but when we do, Dyche expects us to try and at least grab a goal or 2 from it, and it paid off, as you say.
It did, and like I say, I think it has been coming, and nice to see. Like I say, certainly for Joe Hart's point of view, the defence looked solid. He commanded it well. It looked like the Joe Hart of old for me.
So do you think now that all those people that was saying via our Twitter page that Heaton and Pope and there was, having their little say on how much they've been, stalwarts for the club, and well, especially Tom Heaton. And
Yeah,
when we put about the top three, a lot of people put Hart third. I mean, do you reckon a lot of people have changed their opinion now?
I think there has, and certainly, moving on from that Bournemouth game, you head to the Tuesday, full of confidence going into the Burton game. But again, you polar opposites in terms of how we set up, how we play. You go from a game where you've got 30% possession against Bournemouth and win 4-0 to go to having, was it something like 45% possession in our favour against Burton. And we missed so many chances, and I think, there was so much criticism on Tuesday night for Heaton. When has Tom Heaton ever had any criticism from any Burnley fans, ever, in the years that he's been here? It was a sudden change of heart, and it just shows how, I'm going to sound a bit controversial and annoy some Burnley fans here, but how fickle some Burnley fans are, because it was only a week and a half ago that they were saying it was, for them, either Heaton Pope Hart or Pope Heaton Hart, and all of a sudden, these talk of these Burnley fans, exactly the same people saying, Heaton's got to go in January for me, he's cost us game there. Maybe he did. The goalkeeping didn't look great, but for me, you've got to start looking again at the other end of the pitch. Certainly watching the highlights, I wasn't able to go myself, but watching the highlights come through live on Sky Sports, and it was showing some of the chances that we missed. And you just think, you've got, from how clinical you were on Saturday against Bournemouth, it's completely the opposite within the space of 3 days against Burton. We touched before on the record against some of the lesser clubs that we've faced in the Cup. The more possession that we have, the less confident we look.
Yeah, 60% possession we had to compare to their 40, and it just goes to show, like I've said to you previously before, we played the year we got beat by Lincoln. They knew full well that if they give us the ball, we don't know what to do with it. We're stuck. We don't know whether to go, getting it stuck at our feet, wondering who do we pass it to, where do we go. We're used to that constant pressure, and when we're given that freedom, we just don't look like we know what to do with it.
We don't. I think the easiest way of putting it is teams, you look over the years that have come to the turf or the games we've been away against the likes of, just to rhyme a few off, like Lincoln, Burton on Tuesday, Accrington Stanley, Leeds in the Cup, Port Vale. We've played these teams and they've out-Burnleyed Burnley. They've done exactly what we have done to so many teams over the last 2, 3, 4 years. Set up solid, be hard to break down, play ugly, and we've no idea what to do against it.
See, for me, the Cup was our, going off the starter that we've had this season, apart from the Bournemouth game maybe being the change of our fortunes. I thought the Carabao Cup were probably our backdoor entry to the Europa League again, because I couldn't see us getting
potentially.
that seventh position again.
It'd be nice. I think you could go on a cup run. If you're not going to go in it to try and progress, what's the point playing in it? We're not here to be beaten by the likes of Burtons and Lincolns and the Accringtons, and no disrespect to any of them, because they came here and they did a job. And you know what? If the boot was on the other foot and we did that, like we have over the years, when we had the scouts, early 2000s against your Coventries at the time, the Derbies.
The capital punishment.
Yeah, like you go through beating your Arsenals, Fulhams, Chelseas, who at the time were all way above us. And we did to teams what these teams have come and done to us. But the problem is, the football's developed so much, and you think of the teams that we've put out against these teams, they're not weakened sides. You're playing some strong players, and especially on Tuesday against Burton, the side that we put out, that would have been, for many a year for Burnley, a first-team Premier League side.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd have to totally agree with you there. There was many first-team players. There was the odd player that hadn't had much game time in there, but
no, but you still expect to come in and do a job.
Of course you do. It's your opportunity. Yeah, you've come in a cup game, but show Dyche what you can do. Show the team what you can do. And who's to say that the week after, when you go into that Cardiff game, you're not looking at maybe a place on the bench or a starting position.
Exactly. Certainly for the players on the fringe now. Certainly when you look at, again, Mr. Favourite with Burnley fans, people like your Jeff Hendricks of the world. You've got to be getting in there and really giving it a go to say, what, Dyche, look what I can do.
Yeah.
Get your name in the frame, but there were so many players so guilty, missing chances. Chris Wood's another. How many chances did he have against Burton? You think, come on, after the season that you had last year, phenomenal. Yeah, you came in, did a job, scored what, 10, 11 goals over the course of the season. Can't argue with that. We're not asking you to repeat that because it's a big thing to do to ask a Burnley striker in this team to be getting into double figures. Any that do, you take your hat off to him because it takes some doing. But you just expect that little bit more. And again, no disrespect to the likes of Burton, but against teams of that quality, when the two divisions below you, and yeah, they're up for it. They looked up for it. As soon as they got that equaliser, you knew straight away that was it. You know, that was it for me. I don't want to be too critical on Dyche because he's worked wonders at this football club, but you've got to question the mentality of his thinking against these lesser sides in the cup because we just don't look up for any of them.
Yeah, a lot of people do question, you know, is he capable against, you know, the minnows of football?
It does make you wonder. I mean, like I say, you know, we've touched upon it already about the likes of Burton, Aki Stanley in the League Cup, you know, Leeds when they came here. They weren't anything to beat, you know, but they came at us, you know, they set up solid, broke on the counter, scored 2 goals, took us to penalties, we lost. I know penalties is a lottery. We should have beaten these teams, certainly with the teams that we fielded. That Accrington game, you look there, people were saying a couple of weeks ago that Nick
very
Pope,
similar to the Burton game, wasn't it? I mean, how it was conceding in the last minute, so to speak.
It was, but I think as well that people
very similar feel. 2
weeks ago were saying Nick Pope's our #1 keeper. When Nick Pope played in that Accrington Sandler game, people were thinking, Christ, we need to sign another keeper because he's not good enough.
Yeah.
Basing it on one game. You look for me, like you look through these games and we've played very, very strong 11s. We've got to be doing better.
Yeah. On the basis of that, like you said, we were only, with being in the Europa League, we had quite an advance in that cup competition. We were 4 games away from a final.
Yeah, you know, and you think, you know, it's an opportunity to go in and do well. You know, we've sort of started in the round after what we would normally for finishing 7th. So you think, why not? You know, you say 4 games away from a trip to Wembley, and it doesn't sound like a lot. And yeah, you're going to come up with some tougher teams. But if you can't beat the likes of Burton, you don't deserve to go any further. I'm sorry. I say, it's absolutely no disrespect to Burton and the teams of that ilk whatsoever. They wanted it more than us, and they absolutely thoroughly deserved to go through.
Of course they did. So the weekend after, not the weekend after, sorry.
Yeah, it was the weekend after. A trip to Cardiff.
I mean, it was a tough game. It was there was a lot of people saying, you know, a lot of people whinging Super Sunday and coughing and
it was never going to be pretty, was it? It was never going to be anywhere near a Super Sunday of any sort of spectacle whatsoever. But a Dyche team against a Warnock team, you know exactly what you're going to get.
You're going to get a battle.
Of course you are, and it's going to be a tough, dogged,
blood, sweat, and
horrible,
tears.
Bodies on the line, take what you can get sort of scrap. And it's kind of what it proved out to be, really. I mean, it was far from pretty that first half.
Yeah, very bleak first half. I'd have to say.
You know, so you go into half time thinking, well, defended well, look solid. Again, Joe Hart's looked commanding at the back. And you just think, right, go into that. Maybe come out with just that little bit more quality because, again, we're a season or 2 more progressed in terms of our Premier League development from what Cardiff are. So you think, right, well, come out, show a little bit of something, which I think we did. You know, we did step it up a gear. Admittedly, it took a little while to get into that next gear. And then you get one of the smallest men on the pitch popping up with a header at the back post to put you into a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, it was a strange one because I didn't expect the goal. In fact, I was just sat. You know, I couldn't make it. I sat watching it via Sky Sports, and the goal seemed to come out of nowhere. It just looked like one of those drab games that was going to be a game of chances that nobody were going to finish, and probably a 0-0. But when the goal went in, I like I say, to be fair, it's a good goal for Gudmundsson. He's took it well. He's managed to sneak it there through Neil Etheridge. Just pretty much under his arm.
I think there were a few fans who couldn't really tell that it had gone in, to be honest. It was a strange angle, wasn't it? But I'm not even sure Gudmundsson looked like he knew it had gone in, to be honest.
It's certainly one that, obviously, he'll probably remember anyway, just sneaking past the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I don't think he'll score too many headers in his career, but, you know, you go 1-0 up, you think, right, you know, see it out, defend well. If you can sneak another, then, you know, I'll do it. But, you know, they made it 1 apiece.
Good goal, I must say.
Oh yeah, a fantastic strike, and there's not many keepers who'd have saved them. But I think looking at that Josh Murphy, I must admit during the summer I'd have been quite tempted to have a punt at him here. To be honest, looks good on the ball. He's got a bit of pace. I think he'd have been a good signing for us. But they've got a good player there, and I think if they can get somebody on at the end of his deliveries and the quality that he's got, they may just about be able to sort of battle towards the end of the season, Mike Cardiff. But I think they will be heavily reliant on probably him scoring goals rather than anybody getting on the end of his deliveries, really, because they do look a little bit lacking of a spark to Cardiff for me.
Yeah, I mean, last year in the Championship they had, they've still got Hoylett, who we all famously remember.
Yeah, we'll not say too much on that chappy, but
they've got experience at the back in Sol Bamba, which is surprising me. I mean, he were a free transfer for Cardiff last year, and
a typical Warnock signing,
yeah,
wasn't
definitely.
he? Sort of a big lump at the back who's no nonsense, and he chipped in with a couple of decent goals for Cardiff last season on the way to promotion. But they just look lacking a little bit of quality somewhere. For me, Harry Arter for them's a fantastic signing on
yeah,
loan.
brilliant signing.
And he was one of the few in their midfield that I thought, he's the kind of player that we've needed. Roll up your sleeves, get stuck in, a few blood and thunder challenges, and it's what football's all about. That was what Sunday's game was going to be all about. It wasn't going to be pretty. It was going to be a battle and a scrap. And I think for Cardiff, he probably epitomised that. But I think going back to us and the way that we attacked and the build up for the second goal was fantastic, and the ball in and Vaux's header was superb, and
it seemed to be like a still picture moment. It took a while before
it wasn't a pacey build up, was it?
No. But he's finally got that monkey off his back. All the headers that he had against Aberdeen before the start of the campaign, and
yeah, and I think you go into like Olympiacos game and some of the chances that he's missed.
That monkey's off his back, and
yeah, and I do like Vaux. I think he brings a lot to the team, and it's a lot more than just goals. You look at his his hold up play and his work ethic. There's a lot of teams who'd love a Sam Vaux, and I'm just glad we've got someone like him in our team, to be honest.
Yeah, there were a lot of talk and rumours going around at the start of the season that maybe he was going to be one of the strikers that we offload.
I'd have been sad to see him go, to be honest.
Definitely.
I wouldn't have wanted him to leave, and I think if he was to have gone, I think it was going to be our loss and somebody else's gain. I mean, it proves what he brings to the side. Like I say, it's not all about his goals. It's his strength. His attitude. There's a lot of people who could look towards him and want to be Sam Vaux. As ridiculous as that sounds, everybody wants to be a Messi or a Ronaldo. But I think he's being realistic. I think he offers a lot of things that other players around him could learn, to be honest.
Well, yeah, he's fought for his place anyway. I mean, look at the strikers we've had at the club during his time. You've got Danny Ings that went on to better things and then unfortunately didn't work out, and now he's gone back. He's now at Southampton. Charlie Austin, again.
Gray, another one.
If anything, he's a very similar. He's like he's a similar player to Ben Mee. Like, I know this sounds stupid, but hear me out, people. I mean, up front, is he the striker that makes all these other strikers appear better, with the goals and everything else? Where Ben Mee has made the likes of Michael Keane and now Tarkowski, rise up to the challenge, so to speak.
Of course, yeah, so sort of take your point on board in what you're saying, and I think a lot of it as well, probably similar to Ben Mee, Vaux has probably found himself under a little bit of criticism, which I think is unfair from some Burnley fans, because what they brought to this side, you can't argue of anything what them two players in particular have put into this side over the years.
Yeah.
And I think, looking more recently to Sam Vaux, last season he had to be so patient waiting for his chance because of how well Barnes and Wood played. You couldn't drop either of those two last season.
No.
So I think, for a guy who's been here, he's been around the block with a few clubs, but he's admitted himself not long back that he's found Burnley to be his footballing home. He's settled here, and he's playing. In the last few years, he's played some fantastic football, and for me, vastly underappreciated, probably undervalued and underappreciated by some, but certainly not from me. I think what he brings to this side, it offers a little bit something to Barnes. I mean, we know what Barnes is. He's a big bruiser, and we know about how he goes about his business. Chris Wood likes to be a bit more technical, get the ball on the floor, play to feet. Vaux, for me, if you're pinging balls up, like, we all know how many people say, Burnley are a long ball side. You ping long balls up, Sam Vokes is going to win a good percentage of them, head, chest, bringing them down, bringing the likes of a Vidra in, a Goodmanson, a Lennon, and knocking the ball about. And I think he's brilliant for doing that.
Well, you can see in his, in his performances how he's also got that prowess. Like you say, if somebody is just peeling off him, and there's a long ball come over, he'll get up, he'll head it back, he'll knock it on for you. If you're going to run into that space, he will knock it on for you, and it just shows that with Sam Vokes, sorry, it's not just about his own game; it's a team game.
No, and I mean you hear it so often about people wanting to see their strikers have a selfish streak, but I think Sam Vokes is probably the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
There's an unselfishness to every aspect of his game because it's not all about it's not a Sam Vokes show. He's probably not a player who's ever going to get you 10, 15 goals in the Premier League. I mean, his partnership with Ings in the Championship season was phenomenal when the season prior to when we went up. I think between him and Ings, they appeared very little and scored 3 goals all season. And then the season we go up for first, Dyche's first promotion, that was it, 43 goals between them for the season. And, he chipped in with his fair share. I think Ings got the limelight, but Vokes just goes about his business, and he's just, a really top professional for me.
So from scoring the winning goal against Cardiff to making it 2-2 and getting the opening goal against Huddersfield.
Yeah, again, great play from Vokes generally, throughout the game, and he's probably one of 2, possibly 3 at a push that you think came away from that Huddersfield game with any credit.
Yeah.
I must admit, there were a few boos at the end of the game, and I'm not one who agrees with the booing of the team.
I'm hoping it was aimed towards the ref. I mean,
I think a lot of it was.
We have been talking to Turf Moyle Loyal, haven't we? And even Ben there, he thinks that he's hoping that it was aimed at the ref.
I think the majority of it was. I don't doubt that there's a few who were booing that game. I think if you booed the game, I understand it slightly. If you're doing that team, don't bother. Come on, we've seen a hell of a lot worse than this. It wasn't pretty though. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to hold back in the sense that the performance was terrible.
It seemed like a Burnley of old. We grabbed that one. We grabbed that goal and we sat on it. We basically tried to sit on it and keep that lead. And there was a guy behind me, and he said pretty much 10-15 seconds before they scored, it's coming. They're gonna score, because you could tell how much pressure they were applying onto us, and we just let them do it. We didn't let Dyche has come out and said we didn't get a grip. We did not get a grip of the game, and we let it get away from us.
No,
and it showed.
I think the thing is as well, yes, you look at your players, and I'm not jumping on the let's criticise Dyche bandwagon, but there's got to be some game management from Dyche. When you're only 1-0 up, we never look like scoring again. That's fine, but if you're going to try and sit on a 1-0 lead, you've got to defend better. I'm going to call it out now. Ben Mee had an off day. Tarkowski, people were raving about his performance.
Yeah, I don't understand how we got the man of the match in that game. Apart from that slide where Ben Mee's kind of lost the ball.
But that was from prattling about at the back.
Yeah, it were.
He was involved in. So I don't see that. Charlie Taylor, second half, there was one where I don't often get on the players' backs. It's not... I don't find it's beneficial to anybody, but Charlie Taylor backed out of a 50-50 challenge. He pulled out, and they got the ball, they attacked. Didn't lead to anything, but could have done. You don't battle out of them. Burnley fans want players to go in and say, you know what, get stuck in.
Yeah.
If he hurts himself, he hurts himself. I'm sorry, you don't want to see anybody get injured.
No.
But you're going to get injured more if you start pulling out of challenges. Everybody knows, from the bottom tier of amateur league right to the top of the Premier League, World Cup, whatever. You start pulling out of challenges, you're more likely to hurt yourself by trying to pull out of it. Just get in, get stuck in. But you just watched, the more and more the game went on, the pitch just seemed to double in size because they had so much space in Huddersfield coming forward. And the cross for their goal, you think, he stood in about a weaker space. There's nobody closing down. All this, talk about how intense Dyche wants his players to play. I didn't see any of that against Huddersfield. None whatsoever.
No, and it were a well-taken header bash in which, as you said about getting stuck in, not long after, Schindler goes down. It was unfortunate. I must say it was a bit of like 2 players battling for the ball. Unfortunately, he's caught one off the elbow of Sam Vokes.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, even though he's took the knock, I think, was it Westwood or Cook had the
Westwood's
effort,
had
and he smashed it right against his face, and he's on the floor.
But in fairness,
you know, blood dripping down his face.
There's been a lot of criticism from David Wagner. We've had some real whinging from Huddersfield fans.
Yeah.
You can see it now. You ask any club what Sam Vokes has played for, or anybody who's watched football and seen what Sam Vokes is about. He's not a player who's going to get up and elbow somebody at face.
No.
If it'd been Ashley Barnes, I'd have been like, yeah, maybe he's a little bit naughty. He might have done that. Not from Vokes. There was no intention there whatsoever to hurt anybody.
It's a case of getting in front of your man and trying to win that ball. I feel with Sam Vokes.
I mean, Schindler. He's not a little lad. We're not talking somebody of an Aaron Lennon size. He's a big, solid centre back. And I must admit, I actually quite like the guy. He's a good footballer.
Yeah.
What I've seen of him, looks a good defender. If you're as a centre back at any level, if you're going to get a big lad like Sam Vokes jumping in front of you, there's every chance that you're going to cop an elbow or an arm, a forearm, a shoulder to chin, face, whatever.
Of course you are.
Every level of football, you know full well, you're going to have a battle with somebody like that. He's not someone who's going to want to smash somebody in the face. I don't buy that whatsoever. But people say that Westwood smashed the ball at Schindler. Schindler got up. Schindler got up from that challenge to defend. Credit to him.
Yeah.
He got it away, helped his keeper out. Then he dropped. Got some treatment, came straight back on.
Yeah, we're a bit bad of the ref, wasn't it? A bit bad of the ref. He had to let play carry on, especially when he's dropped down.
Yeah, but so, I mean, in fairness, give the ref credit. If he's not seen that it was a head injury when Schindler's got straight back up and headed the ball away. What's he supposed to do? If somebody's got up that brave to defend the ball, should the ref have stopped it? He might not have seen it. He's turned around and followed play when the ball's gone away.
And maybe not seen him got dropped.
Exactly.
Yeah,
until he's had the shouts from people around him that it is a head injury, there's blood involved, etc. Then he stopped play. But for the length of time that Schindler was down, went off, came straight back on. If there was any intent, then Huddersfield players would have been surrounding that referee.
Oh, yeah.
And they know full well that Sam Vokes is not a player who's going to go and smash someone in the face. So they knew that it was no intention.
It was just a 50-50 aerial battle to win that ball.
Exactly, and you just think, come on. Huddersfield fans, let's get realistic. If De Poitre jumped into Ben Mee would get up and, he'd have a go with him. Not in terms of a fight.
It's very similar to a Schindler type play. He'd have got up and he'd have still tried to carry on and defend.
Yeah. I mean, all this about, De Potter's dive, that was absolutely terrible. No place in football for that.
That's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
The stamp that followed, was it a stamp? No, for me, if you're jumping over somebody who's dived in front of you, where are you supposed to go? Where are you supposed to put your feet? On a big lump, what's just dropped, trying to con and cheat the referee? No, you know what? Not a stamp for me. That, if anything, it deserved more than a yellow card.
It's a Phil Bird. It's a justice, isn't it?
It is, very much so. I mean, sadly, there's now not going to be any retrospective action because the ref's seen it and booked him. That rule for me's got to change. If somebody has so blatantly dived, I mean, this isn't the first time. Look at Van der Parra last season. Exactly the same. Yeah. I mean, what was it? 367 days, prior that we played Huddersfield last season. Did exactly the same thing. And again, booked, no action. That, for me, that law's got to change. That even if you're booked, but you have so blatantly, obviously cheated or tried to cheat the referee, the game, the fixture to your advantage, there's got to be some action for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at these players that bet. That have these secret betting accounts, and they get banned. They get fined. They get banned of matches. Racial tweets from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You're banned. But yet a dive, no, a yellow card and move on to next week.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe a straight red would cut it out?
I don't think it'd cut it out, but I think it might
narrow
it down a little bit. We've seen plenty of people do it, and like Dyche touched upon. I mean, people give Dyche criticism, certainly from other.
He seems like the only
fans.
manager that's kind of, quite passionate about trying to get it stopped.
But the thing is, how many times do we see it? We've seen it over the years from people like Wilfred Zaha and people like that, throwing themselves to the ground. Arms are flailing in air everywhere, and you just think, come off it. There's no place anywhere in football for throwing yourself to the deck like that. You don't want to see kiddies do it in part. Never mind professional, highly played, highly followed football professionals doing stuff like that. And as well, I'm going to say it, De Poitre is hardly a player nimble on his feet. He's not a twinkle toes.
No.
He's not a big fancy star. He's a big lump of a bloke. If you go down like that, chances are you're cheating or come off it. Your legs are buckled underneath that weight. That was just for me. That was one of the worst dives I've seen.
The thing were, Huddersfield fans were screaming for it, which obviously, as from a fan's point of view, you go into.
Yeah, of course you are.
But it's right in front of them. Right in front of them. I mean, the ref had a very good view of it, which, lo and behold, the ref did his job. Did what he had to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them. It could have quite easily gone the other way. The ref could have seen that Tarkowski had maybe clipped him or thought he'd clipped him, give the penalty. Huddersfield win the game. We feel aggrieved.
We've seen it
and
happen
we're
at
having a
Turf
different
a few
argument.
times.
And you've seen it up and down, football grounds everywhere that there's a blatant dive, but refs seen it. I mean, there was one at weekend, wasn't there, that we've just seen? Leeds against Brentford. It doesn't matter who gets a penalty against Leeds. If it's a penalty or not a penalty, it's a penalty against Leeds. But you actually watch it back, and the lad's going down about 2 or 3 paces away from keeper even touching him. But they've won the penalty. They've gone and scored. Yeah, Leeds have got back into the game at the end, but it's effectively cost them potentially 2 points. And it was a dive. Let's be honest, Brentford player did go down and dive. That could have quite easily been the Potter winning a penalty for something that was blatant cheating. Huddersfield fans have got to admit they know full well that was just blatant cheating, and it has no place in the game whatsoever.
So, like I said, betting is it's seen as match fixing. So diving should be under a similar category because you are trying to fix the game to your advantage.
It's the same sort of principle, and I think it has to be looked upon. But I think the problem is there's all this. I don't know, the Premier League especially wanting to maintain this image, and I think if they acknowledge that there's a problem, it tarnishes the image, so maybe that's why they're trying to sweep it under the rug like it doesn't happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think the Premier League, I don't think the Football League, there's suits and pen clickers at the headquarters of the Football League and Premier League. They're too busy making a brand and an image to worry about stuff like that. Unless there's a case to be made about a bad boy like a Joey Barton with his betting and stuff like that. Because of his past, it's been a bit checkered. People make mistakes. I've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. There's nobody on this planet who hasn't made mistakes.
Oh, no.
But it's about learning from them. If you look at the way Barton's conducted himself these last few years, if he was that bad a person, do you think a club would take him on as a manager?
No.
Would they? But it's all about learning. But they were making an example of a player that they felt, we need to make an example of him. How many other players are betting? How many other players are cheating? Chucking himself to the floor. It happens everywhere.
Everything.
I mean,
there's a lot of things going on in football that, that aren't seen to the naked eye, but...
Like I say, I think a lot of it is about keeping a brand and an image intact rather than admit that there's a problem and do something about sorting it out.
Is that where, when Dyche came out and said he's gone to see his son play and he sees kids of that age throwing themselves at the floor and their parents, clapping and applauding that they've just done that?
Yeah. I'm quite amazed at the current standing, the way things are, that there's not a dive option on like FIFA and Pro Evo Soccer at the minute. That is,
they used to be on Pro Evo. I do remember that.
We're at that stage now where it's almost just looked upon that it's part of the game and that refs will deal with it on the pitch. They tried a couple of seasons back, didn't they, where they'd say it's potentially an instant red depending on the severity of how you've tried deceiving the ref, but. There were just yellow cards going about, and we saw all this about holding players in the penalty area, how easily penalties were being given for somebody grabbing hold of a shirt. That's fizzled out. There's all these little phases and these fads that the Premier League and Football League go through about, we're going to introduce this, we're going to stamp it out at game. It lasts about 6, 8, 10 games, and it all fizzles out, and it's forgotten about.
VAR, do you reckon that'll sort it?
It depends to what level they take VAR, whether it's just for incidents such as dubious offsides, dubious penalties, things like that. It's how far you take it. I mean, there was even talks, I watched on the news last week, about reducing the game from 90 minutes and whatever stoppage time on the end to 2 30-minute halves, but the clock stops when it goes out to play.
Yeah, I think this was based on the actual Burnley Cardiff game due to Sean Morrison having How long?
8.5 minutes
trying to
taking
take
throw-ins.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stop tampering with the stuff in football that doesn't need tampering with.
Yeah.
Sort out the issues. What are the problem? The length of the game isn't a problem. Leave it alone. Stuff like oh, do we change it from throw-ins to kick-ins? No, leave it how it is. Yeah. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
There are problems that need fixing, and it's like Dyche, he's going to keep banging the drum about cheating. He might as well talk to a brick wall, because I don't think there'll be anybody in the suits at the top that pay any attention to what he says whatsoever unless it was Shawnee or Dyche or somebody of that ilk, a foreign manager complaining about Darwin. Let's face it.
And at a top club.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any attention paid whatsoever. But a lot of it has, do you blame it on foreign players? I don't know. Yeah, there is a culture of that abroad, and you certainly watch the Spanish leagues or the Portuguese, and watch some of the diving, what goes on there at Italian leagues, especially. You watch it, and it's absolutely hilarious. But it's hilarious to the point that it's such a common thing in football. Like, it's almost acceptable now.
Well, speaking of diving, I mean, we saw the World Cup Raheem Sterling.
That's the word. It's one of our own. It's an Englishman and stuff like that.
But Raheem Sterling's club, Manchester City, next opponents Saturday. What do you think?
Not looking forward to that, if I'm being honest. City and Chelsea next, and everybody knows what them two are about now. They've started this season. You look through that City side, and you don't see. You didn't see last season how you could find any gaps or any holes in that team, but you look at it this season, you think there's better teams than Burnley will come up against them and can't find ways through. I mean, I watched the Liverpool City game on Sunday. I said before it started, there's all this build-up about challengers versus champions. So it's got 0-0 all over it, because they're very similar teams in the way that they attack. And I think now that Liverpool have tried, they've sorted out the keeper issue. They've got a very good centre-back in Virgil van Dijk. Joe Gomez has come through and looks fantastic again now. He's recovered from his injury. And he had 0-0 all over it. So if you're going to criticise the Burnley-Cardiff game, which had 3 goals in it, admittedly wasn't a spectacle, does a 0-0 between City and Liverpool become acceptable because it was a terrible penalty miss and the opening 10 minutes were frantic? They were always going to be,
It's just I think it's based more exclusively on the bigger fan base. The fan bases of these clubs. It's what people want to see.
It's the name, isn't it?
But we see these games season after season. Get these games on. Get these games. Get a Cardiff Burnley. Get a Huddersfield against Fulham when they're in a relegation scrap. It's entertaining. It is entertaining.
I mean, come the end of the season when those fixtures come round, they'll be like, oh yeah, we're going to show this relegation battle. It's like, yeah, but you would have had no interest whatsoever if it was the start of the season and meant nothing.
Yeah.
Why does City Liverpool suddenly become something 8 games into the season?
Yeah. First, second, and for what? It's not like it's the last 2 or 3 games at the end and they're fighting for that. That title.
I think as well, when you look at all this like challengers versus champions, I'm sorry, Liverpool challengers, they haven't won a league since 1990. How can you call them challengers just because they've spent
8 games in
millions and millions and millions of pounds and have no league title to show for it in the best part of 30 years? There's 19 other teams, other than Man City, challenging. So why, if it's Man City against Newcastle or Man City against Burnley, why is that not champions against challengers? Because let's face it, we're all challenging for something. Yeah. Might not be challenging for the top, but you're still battling for points.
Of course,
so come off this or Liverpool will challenge this season. It'll be the same old story. City will run away with it. Chelsea will finish strongly because they're not in Champions League. They've just got Europa League, which they might go out of with lack of interest and just concentrate on that top 4. Will Liverpool last a season? I'm not convinced just yet. But all this talking of them as challengers, come off it. Nah, not for me. Nah.
So, like I say, Man City. Last season at the Turf, we drew 1 apiece. At their place, completely different story. But Pep Guardiola came out and said that Dyche's Burnley team was probably the hardest he had to tactically manage in his head, because we changed the game up and everything when we played at the Etihad.
We do, don't we? I mean, certainly away from home. I mean, you go to their patch. I mean, I went there in the cup last year and we went 1-0 up with Ashley Barnes, and everyone's going absolutely nutty, thinking, are we on for a bit of a cup shock when, we're in the same league, but they're just on another planet. But they show what they're all about and turn the style on. And it's just it is incredible to watch when they're in full flow. But
when you think they've got going, and then they hit that switch, and they just
the pace of it is frightening. But you've got to look for me. You've got to look at Guardiola and give him so much credit because he's turned some. Going to sound a bit controversial to some, certainly to City fans. Some very average players into very good players, if not excellent players.
Yeah.
The likes of Sterling. He was always a bit, for me.
Yeah.
A bit of a fancy, expensive Aaron Lennon to some degree.
Yeah.
Loads of pace, could get to the byline, final product was terrible. And then all of a sudden, last season, he's just come from absolutely nowhere as Sterling. He's bagging goals for fun. He had like 20 goals by Christmas, and you think, what is Guardiola feeding this lad? He's come from nowhere. And like I say, David Silva, he's a fantastic player anyway, but whatever Guardiola's done there, he's just taking him even further. Silva, for me, is one of their best players, and where do you find a hole in that team to try and exploit?
Yeah, you've got a very strong midfield there. You've got Ilkay Gundogan, who's, I think he's, 24, 25? Still trying to get in amongst David Silva, who's in his 30s, if not 34.
32, something like that, I think. But
you've got Fernandinho's back end of his career probably just hit 30, something like that.
Yeah, he's certainly approaching.
He's another player that he's really probably turned into. Didn't expect much.
And I think a lot as well. I'd love as much. Never mind just to watch City where they play. I'd love to see what he does in training, because there must be some magic going on that training ground. Because, like you say, when they turn on the style, it's unstoppable. And some of the goals they score, they just make it look so easy. They just break through teams at will.
I like how he's done pretty much similar to what he did at Barcelona. He's brought, he's worked with the youth academy as well, and he's brought through the likes of, as much as they've bought these young players from different teams or whatever, but they're still nurtured at Man City. And they've come through that. Look at the likes of Zinchenko, Foden.
Phil Foden. They talk about him being like the Stockport Messi or something.
Yeah.
You'd love to see these players get more game time, but where on earth do you put a Phil Foden amongst the likes of these superstars when these superstars are not getting game time? The obvious one for me at City is Aguero.
Yeah.
For me, probably one of the best Premier League strikers ever. For me, vastly underappreciated in terms of...
Every year they do say it, City, don't they? About they're going to bring in another striker.
Yeah.
Is Aguero moving on? Does he think he's done what he can at City? But every season he shines through, and his class just appears all.
If I remember rightly,
everywhere.
I think last season was the first season since he's been in the Premier League, which I think is about 8 years now, that he's actually been acknowledged and put in the Premier League Team of the Year.
Yeah.
This is a player who every season has got goal after goal after goal, even on times when he's been out for 2 and 3 months injured. He's come back and just scored another 10 in that remainder of the season. You think he's just a man who scores goals. You put that ball into that box, as City so often do, high crosses, low crosses, his head, his feet, left foot, right foot, doesn't matter. He scores your goals, and for me, Gabriel Jesus, great player. I wouldn't drop Aguero for him.
Another player that's probably come back in since his injury as well, Bernardo Silva.
Yeah, I must admit, after his diving antics against us at the Etihad last year, I've never actually quite taken to him.
Me neither.
Good player. I don't want to talk about him too much because I don't like him. But I'm just a bitter Burnley fan who didn't like seeing him throw his arms to the ground like he'd been sniped from top of the stand. But you look at the players who can't get into that team, as we've touched on, and they've got Kevin De Bruyne to come back. This is a City team who
a very strong midfielder.
The joint top at Premier League, and arguably the most creative player from last season. I haven't even kicked the ball yet. It's frightening. There's been a lot of talk about have City now overtaken United. I think if you're talking now, they're light years ahead of United.
Yeah.
In terms of what United have won, yeah, of course they've got, trophy after trophy, more than what City had. But what City are doing now, and dominating football, what United did through 90s and early noughties, just as Liverpool did through the 70s and 80s, you know, there's that time scales of teams dominating. You just can't see City stopping. I mean, if Guardiola goes, they'll just replace him with another top quality manager. The cycle will go on. I think they'll dominate for about another 8-10 years quite easily.
Well, that's where United fans have their fickle moment, isn't it? They say, you know, our success was built, not bought, because they had, you know, the class of 92, was it?
Yeah, but
And you know, you had all the youth players that came through, and they worked wonders and stuff, and they built on that under the Fergie era. But you look at that, you look at Man United now, you look at them. The infrastructure of Man City now compared to the infrastructure of Manchester United, as much of Manchester United have spent the cash, behind the scenes at Man United, there's something not right.
yeah,
Would you say that's affecting Manchester United?
I must admit, I think if United had Mourinho from 2004 now, United would run City close. Mourinho for me just lost a little bit of magic. Whether that's he had an arrogance, but it was a positive arrogance when he joined Chelsea. All this, I'm the special one, I'll win this, I'll win that. He did. And he rattled Fergie. When he rocked up at Chelsea, he rattled Fergie. When it was coming up that Fergie was, announcing his retirement, and he was actually going, not all the false retirements he had for about 16 years. But I often said, there's only Mourinho, for me, could replace Fergie.
Yeah.
But Fergie left a very average side behind at United. Won the title with a very average side. Left it behind, walked away as a champion. Moyes walked in. What chance did he have?
Yeah.
You know, for me,
you're not going to replicate what he's done.
Yeah, whoever followed Fergie were on a hiding.
Yeah. It's like being in a relationship, isn't it? You've been in a relationship for a long time. Afterwards, you're like, I don't want anybody else. David Moyes. The rebound. The rebound.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm just saying, he was the rebound prior. I mean, well, saying that, I mean, then you had Van
Louis
Gaal.
Van Gaal's Red Army!
And,
But he was another crackpot, but he came in and, won a couple of trophies, and he wasn't particularly wanted, really, I don't think, but he was the only real option at the time.
Yeah.
And Mourinho were available, they've got him in. He won 2 trophies, Europa League and, Charity Shield or League Cup, whatever they won. All were rosy at United again. But for me, I think you've got to look past Mourinho. I think you can see why Mourinho's miserable. When he wanted Maguire, Alderweireld, Boateng from Munich, and he got none of them, and he's left with Chris Smalling and Phil Jones. I think that'd tip me over edge, to be honest.
Definitely.
You've got to start looking, at the board level and executive level. I think it's Ed Woodward who's there, who seems like he's really annoyed Mourinho and let him down massively there. You've got all this talk of, he's got a world class superstar in Paul Pogba. I've not seen him do anything in a United shirt that would make me think he's world class. Yeah, he won World Cup, but I'm sorry, there's
also another 10 players on that football pitch,
and there's 22 other players in that squad who have all played the part in winning that World Cup. And yeah, he had a great World Cup. He looked fantastic, but he's gone back to United and he don't look interested. Lukaku this season looks like he looks like Emil Esker. He looks a right donkey.
Do you reckon he looks a bit like when we had Akinbaye the second time, when he came back bulkier than he were, and he just doesn't look like he could do much because he was so immobile.
I would say he's lost that bit of a pace, that mobility, and that. I mean, if we say that he turned Ben Mee quite easily, didn't he? Like adding inside out. But generally speaking, over the course of the season, there's nothing in that United team that has made me think, you know what, they could challenge. And in the summer, I thought, it might be Mourinho and United's year to run City close here and give them a do. But there's been nothing really. I mean, apart really from beating us, there's nothing what I think look a good side, the United.
So our next 2 games then, Manchester City and Mourinho's former club Chelsea.
If we get a point out of these next 2 games, I would be over the moon. I don't care which it comes from.
Yeah.
Last podcast we did, I said if we get 6 out of 9, we got 7 out of 9. I were happy. Wasn't pretty, but it's 7 points on board. if we can get one out of these two, I don't think it's just good football. I think it's a bloody miracle, to be honest.
Yeah.
You just don't see either team where you're gonna get anything from them. I mean, Chelsea side, Hazard just looks on another level this season.
I think he's just been given the freedom, hasn't he, down that side, which is it's helping him, but obviously there's like I just said, there is 10 others on that pitch, but with Seri giving him that freedom on that side to do what he wants to do. It's almost as though he doesn't have to focus on his game or what he's doing.
Off, aren't they,
yeah. Run at defenders. Do what you're good at. Go for it.
I think as well, Hazard's been quite vocal and public this week about his desire to join Madrid, or he doesn't know where he's head. He's all the rest of it. But for me, look back over the past few years. Mourinho came back to Chelsea. Hazard had a great first season under him. Second season, Hazard had a fallout with him. Wasn't interested. Wasn't performing. Mourinho gets sacked. Conte came in. First season, Hazard looks an unbelievable player again. He's performing. He's running teams ragged. Won at players at season. Everything's rosy. Chelsea win the league. Conte's second season. Lo and behold, there he is, sulking again. Things aren't going his way. He's been sussed out. Doesn't want to perform. Conte gets sacked at end of season. Another new manager's come in. Here we are again, and he's on top at world again. You know, we're talking about him being best at world. But for me, yeah, he's a great player, but your attitude's got to be consistently the same to be put in that bracket as one of the greatest. I mean, you look at, we've mentioned it before about Ronaldo's work rate. What he's done on and off the pitch for himself to keep him at that such a high level is nothing but dedicated hard work season in, season out. Hazard, for me, drifts in and out whenever it suits, and you never know what Hazard you're going to get.
Yeah.
At the minute, yeah, you know, on current form, yeah, he's up there. Has he shown anything regularly every season to show that he deserves to be there? Nah, not for me.
No, I mean, I think if he did get the move to Madrid, it'd be one of them where I think he'll probably look at it as though I don't even have to play to my full potential because I know I've got players around me that even if I just get into a pocket of space and I can just hit it and score, I don't have to. He's got that arrogance.
He does. Like I said, I think there's got to be. I think for an arrogance, there's got to be a consistency.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing missing from his game. And he's not a young lad anymore. I mean, he's like, what is he, 25, 26-ish?
Yeah.
He's not a bit of a kid at the start of his career. You think by now that you think, you know what?
Probably having his peak years.
Yeah, and you've got to look at it and think, I don't care what manager's doing. If manager's losing his head and he's going to get sacked, fine, whatever. But for me, yeah, I mean, it's been said, there's been a lot of talk at Chelsea over the years about player power at that club. It does make you wonder just how much control they have over that dressing room as to like the high turnover of managers at that place. That they keep coming and going. I mean, there were a lot said about the likes of Drogba, Terry, Lampard, Essien, that they control that dressing room. How much of that puts more added pressure on a manager? Certainly foreign managers there, like your Contes and whatnot. And this Sarri's come in, and they seem to have a lot of respect for him. But they've had a lot of respect for every manager that's come in for the first season. And then when it's not quite going their way the season after, I mean, look at last season with Chelsea. First game of the season, Burnley rock up, 3-0 up at half time. And look at the season they had last year.
Yeah.
You know, they were a little better than average, you know, and you just think, how do you go from being a team that wins the league quite comfortably, with everybody firing on all cylinders, go through a summer, and then come back and think, not bothered, what league last season? It's not really good enough for
it's not.
A team that, before 2003, probably didn't exist much in the top 10, but you know, since then they've had a hell of a lot of money put into that club, and they probably expect, and probably to a degree with the players they've got, deserve better than some of the football they've had over the past few years, and I think the players have probably had a bit too much control there.
So, as you said, a point from both games.
I think a point from either. If you get 2 points, even better. You get a win in either of them, and you know we're in dreamland, aren't we?
Sixth season as Burnley manager and just made it into the all-time top 5 of Burnley Football Club. Sean Dyche.
Has to be acknowledged, doesn't it? You know, I think for any manager to last that length of time, certainly in modern day football, the fact that now Wenger's gone, that Dyche is now the second longest serving Premier League manager, just a couple of weeks behind Eddie Howe, who obviously left us for Bournemouth. Speaks volumes. A few years ago, you had Fergie, who was at United for 30 years, you had Wenger, who were at Arsenal for 20 years, and they've both gone. And I think now, is he the fifth longest serving manager in all of England? I think Jim Bentley at Morecambe's one of the longest. So you just think it's unbelievable that 6 years is suddenly deemed a long time for a manager in football. It's been 6 very successful years, that has to be said. The first half a season, well, I say half a season, just over half a season, it was here. He came, obviously, at this time of the year into a team that was unbalanced, I think it's probably fair to say.
A few doubters at the end of that season as well, wasn't there?
Yeah. One of the things that sticks with me, what Dyche said was, it won't be pretty, but we're not going to leak goals. I'll sort the defence out.
Give us time.
He did. He kept us up. Nobody would have expected the second place.
Even he said himself that he didn't expect. He didn't expect his team and his way of what he wanted to do with the club to just be embedded into the players that early.
No,
and it clicked. It worked.
It did, and I think when you look at the likes of Scott Arfield coming in, a player who contacted Dyche and wanted to come and put himself in a shop window and see if he could get a deal here, and paid for his own way to get on the pre-season to come and show what he was about, and that speaks volumes that players are wanting to do this for a manager like Dyche. I think Dyche has certainly earned and certainly deserves all the credit that he's had from the players for what he's done for players like Scott Arfield, Sam Vokes, Danny Ings, who at the time weren't really getting in. Charlie Austin was sold really to keep us in business again. A Premier League venture in 09-10 season, which 60 million plus parachute payments seem to have been frittered on director loans and Leon Courts and the like. And Dyche came in and said, well, where's your Premier League money? And seemed to get some head-scratching, strange glances in his direction. And I think then as you go on through his Burnley career, we've had, in terms of full seasons, a promotion, a Premier League season, a title-winning season, Premier League, Europa League. How on earth can you complain at that? I mean, yeah, it's not been pretty at times, and we touched on that earlier, that it hasn't been spectacular, but when we
had the relegation as well, didn't we?
Yeah, this is what I mean. We've had the relegation.
The titles, the season after.
In terms of the seasons,
the course of the seasons,
his full seasons have been a promotion, a Premier League, a title-winning season, a Premier League, a seventh place finish, which takes you into Europe. It's a record. There's not many managers out there who could say they've got that on the CV in such a short space of time, and certainly not at one club either.
No,
you see managers bounce about clubs and have relative success. The likes of the Allardyces and the Pulis of this world, who generally
hang about the ship now.
Yeah, they bum about at the bottom end of the Premier League just to keep teams up, and that's their job done. Whereas you look at Dyche, it's not just been about 1 to 11 on that pitch. It's been improving each player individually. I think when he's made signings, every signing he has made has been an improvement on the player before them. It can go away from the pitch. It's then, you look what he's done down at Gawthorpe and the infrastructure he's been heavily behind setting up there. I don't know how anybody can criticise Dyche with any sort of justification with the job that he's done here.
No, I mean, if he walked out the building tomorrow with his bags packed and everything and said, you know what, I'm going, I don't know what else I can do, every fan would pass on their well wishes to him tomorrow. I mean, he's built a legacy at the club.
Of course he has.
In 6 years, it sounds long, but in a football career, it's not.
I'd love to see. I say I wouldn't. The day that Dyche goes, because he's always said that he's not going to be here forever. We understand he's not going to be here forever.
No manager's there. If he is,
fantastic. It's our benefit. But the day that he does go, I'd love to see how the club was the day he arrived, and how the club is the day that he left. because whatever he does, whenever it is, whether it's tomorrow, next season, 10 years, 20 years if he wants to do a Fergie, the club will be in a far better place than when he arrived. And I think he deserves, not just him, but the backroom team around him, because there's some good people behind him like Tony Laughlin, Billy Mercer, Ian Warne, who he's admitted that without them he wouldn't have had the success that he's had. And they've got to be acknowledged in all of this. Even
the fact that the players believe in what he's instilled into them has also helped his career.
Of course it has, and I think as well, I mean, he's always said as Dyche that first promotion in the 13-14 season was his favourite, and I think when you watch that Wigan game, especially what sealed the deal for us, the first goal that we scored was absolutely phenomenal. It's the kind of goal that if it was a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, a Juventus, whoever, that'd have been talked about for weeks, but it's little old Burnley, nobody bothered. Every outfield player touched the ball in the build-up. It was wonderful to watch. I think that just epitomised the whole season for that year. And it was some very, very average Championship players who Dyche made believe could beat anybody. And I think there's a lot to be said for man management and the way that he's gone about his business in turning the likes of, David Jones. He's a player who, flirted about with like Wolves and Derby, the unwashed down the road. Had a reasonable career. Came to Burnley and probably had best years of his career. And the likes of Dean Marner.
Joey Barton as well. How he changed Joey Barton. I wouldn't say he changed him as such, but
I think there was almost like a
he
father.
mellowed him out.
Yeah, there were a father-son relationship there in some ways for me. And it all started with an omelette, which we've all heard about Dyche's omelette skills, so we need to try and test one of these one day. But
if you're listening,
do give us a message. Sean would like to try one of these. I think as well. I think one thing I would like to do is at some point I'd love to have a chat with Joey Barton and just get into his head about what Dyche did for him. I'd have loved to have seen a younger Joey Barton under Dyche now. You'd have a real player on your hands, and it's sour the way that it ended for Barton, because I were a big fan of his, and I think the job that he did in that, not just in the middle of the park, but in the middle of the dressing room as well, he clearly had an impact on these players in that it was one of the big characters, the big leaders in that dressing room, which dragged us away through 23 games unbeaten and a Championship title winning season. And like I say, just going as we mentioned, I think there's a lot about Dyche's man management skills that we could probably done with a Joey Barton still now.
Well, it's like say if you wanted to know about what you'd have thought Joey Barton would have thought of Dyche and the way their relationship were. I went to the interview with Joey Barton at Colne Municipal Hall. Even then he said, what he's done, not just for the football club, but for him as a person.
Yeah.
The fact that he's only a door knock away to sit, talk, you ever feel down, you could go in. Like you said, that father-son relationship, he's probably found a friend for life in Dyche now.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if, every odd season now and again, there's going to be a pre-season friendly with Fleetwood, or there's going to be the odd loan player go there. And
yeah, I'd like to see it. I think you look at the job Barton's doing. There's probably
it's done well for what people have been saying as well.
Yeah, I think there's probably an element of the Dyche management system in Barton at Fleetwood now. There's certainly a Burnley feel there with the likes of Chris Long, Dean Marnie and Ross Wallace there now. It's really good players for that level. And if them players can use their experience and drag Fleetwood somewhere near that that top 10 to start, and if you push from there, I think Dyche is probably going to be getting a few phone calls from Joey Barton just to help him try and nudge the extra yard. And I'd imagine Barton will look at the likes of Dyche, the way that so many managers have lent on Sir Alex Ferguson, Arsene Wenger over the years, the Mourinhos.
We've done it under Stan Turner, very good friends with Sir Alex Ferguson, and we got a few players. We had the likes of David May, Luke Chadwick.
Yeah.
We've had
Lee Roach.
Yeah, Lee Roach. We had a young Phil Bardsley.
Yeah. There was a lot of that.
And now we've got an old Phil Bardsley.
Yeah. Seems a long time since he was here under Stan, but like I said, I think it's nice that it just shows Dyche's quality, that Barton will lean heavily on him for advice, just for pointers, just for a chat. There's a lot of talk, and it's been Mental Health Awareness Day this week. Chatting, talking. There can be a lot said for men opening up to somebody, and if Dyche can be that person to players, to now ex-players, managers, whoever. There's been a lot said about Aaron Lennon, Marvin Sordell, people like that. Jason McAteer's come out there this week. Talk, it sounds ridiculous.
Clark Carlisle.
Yeah.
Another one that's probably
one of the more high-profile ones, isn't it?
Look at 09. Look at 09 when we won promotion. You look at the end of the DVD when he's literally looking into the camera and he's holding his Man at Match award, ever so immensely proud at what he's achieved, and he's screaming down that camera, "I love my kids, I love my wife," and everything else, and it just epitomises how much. He even thanked somebody.
Peter Kay, wasn't it? Sporting Chance.
Yeah.
And, for me, you look at Clark Carlisle, and it just goes to show. You just don't know what's under that surface.
No.
You look at Clark Carlisle, you look at him, you think, wow, what a warrior that man was that season to get us up there every season, body on the line, heart in every challenge.
Behind all that,
you just
there was
don't
the drink.
know, do you?
There was the drink problems he had. There was, everything. And, we're not trying to dig up what players have had and stuff. We're not trying to run a player through the mill here, but
you just don't know, do you?
You don't.
For
me and you, we sat here now. We're having this conversation. Deep down, none of us know what's going on up here.
No, do we? And I think this is the thing. We all sort of expect that these people with 2 legs, a pair of football boots, and a very nice wage packet.
Yeah.
We expect them to do things that sometimes.
You've got it all. What can't you be happy about? That's the mindset of certain people.
It is, and like you scratch beneath the surface, and after all said and done, they're just human beings. And like I say, I think there's a lot to be said about talking. So I'm absolutely going to say it, guys. If there's anybody who needs to talk, just talk to someone near you, someone close, whether it's friends, family, whoever. Certainly this week of all weeks, as it's been highlighted, do get talking to people.
If needs be, drop us a message. Any of either myself or Pete will be happy to talk to anybody.
We're generally nice guys. We might give you a little bit of grief from time to time, and it's all part of the friendly humour. But we're everybody's here. It's just yeah. But yeah, like I say, there's a lot to be said about talking and opening up, but a lot of men generally think that there's the pride at stake, and that it's hard to do, it's hard to open up, but absolutely got to try and do it, guys. I've heard recently on a personal level of somebody trying to take their own life in Burnley, actually, and it is hard to hear that it's something happening on your own doorstep. I walked past an incident this week which someone had taken their own life off Centenary away. It's absolutely heartbreaking to think that in the early hours, before I was walking to work, that there's somebody taking their own life because whatever was going on in life was too hard to deal with. And I know we're going slightly off topic, but it's absolutely got to be said that we're all human, and I think there can be a lot more done about opening up and being there for each other, really.
Yeah, so, as you say, as we've said, like you say, come forward, don't be afraid to, speak up. It's probably the best thing you could do. It seems hard to do, and we can understand everybody that thinks that, but do come forward and you'll feel a lot better talking to someone.
There's always an answer, and there's always a way out, isn't there?
Of course there is. All I want to say is, going back to Sean Dyche, we have took a punt on somebody whose biggest achievement is scoring a penalty for Chesterfield, who's worked his way up from a youth coach all the way through probably every single job role in that Watford backroom staff, to a club that then gets bought out by foreign owners, and Dyche basically gets kicked to the curb. And we took a chance on a man that's probably put his life at Watford, and we've kind of given him that new spring. He's kind of still new to management.
He is in a ridiculous sort of way, because 6 years in management isn't a long time at all. I mean, certainly when you look at some of the characters who get, touted about for every job, like we've said about the Allardyces, the Pardews, the Pulis, it's just regurgitating the same old stuff. And, they've been about the game in management for, 10, 20, 30 years, some of them. And you think, this fresh new breed of manager coming through, and you look at some of you go down to the lower league levels, and, this Dean Smith who's just taken the Villa job. He did a good job at Walsall. They were at the top end of League One with Walsall. He's at Brentford playing some superb football. And Villa have got, as they say, one of their own is a Villa fan. There's like a new breed of manager coming through, and I think some of the bigger clubs could do a lot worse than look at, the likes of Dyche. I mean, I don't think Dyche will ever get a top 6 job because I don't think any of the top 6 clubs are brave enough to employ somebody like Dyche. He's unfashionable. He's English.
The way we play.
And I think Dyche's thing is he builds for the long term, not for a short term quick fix. Whereas I think you look at the Cities, Arsenals, Chelsea's, Spurs, Liverpool's, they all want success now because there's so much demand and emphasis on succeeding from directors, investors, whoever. There's nobody giving anybody a long enough chance. I mean, you look at Klopp's been at Liverpool just about 3 years now. Yeah, got to a Champions League final, got to a Europa League final. All that investment, he hasn't won anything yet.
No.
You compare it. I'm not saying you compare Klopp to Dyche. Klopp did very well at Dortmund. He spent a lot of money at Liverpool. In terms of his first 3 years, yeah, he's got to 2 finals but hasn't won anything. Dyche, relatively, in terms of comparing the minimal spend but the maximum success our club could have hoped for, Dyche is through the roof for me. I just don't think he'll ever get a chance at a club higher than our 7th place finish. I think if he's going to try and break into that top 6 or 7 regular, it's going to have to be with a club like us, somebody who will give him long enough to put his stamp on things.
So to finish off on Dyche, who's, for me, for you, probably as a manager of our era, probably one of the best Burnley managers we've seen so far, may I add.
Yeah.
For you, what is your favourite memory or result that Dyche has contributed to?
I mean, the obvious ones that everybody will point to are the Rovers games. Certainly the first one, which got the 35 years monkey off his back.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed the one at the Turf, the 1-0 in the promotion season. That was a big step. I think going back to the 13-14 promotion season for me was one of the highlights. Was Blackpool away. It was a scruffy, horrible 1-0 with a really, really well taken goal from Michael Kitely, followed by that Wigan game, which sealed it for us. The football
it could have happened that Blackpool day, couldn't it? I mean, but we had to wait on Derby's result, which obviously didn't go in our favour. So,
but yeah, I think when you look at that, there's a few. One for me, it might sound a ridiculous one, was the 1-1 draw with Borough.
Yeah, very big game that.
It was huge. I think we had a big game every month leading up. We had like Derby, Hull, and then Borough. I mean, that Derby game was phenomenal just because of watching Jason Shackle just squirm into the ground, and he got smaller and smaller as the game went on. And I have never laughed at a game of football as much as I did that game at Jason Shackle.
Every time a ball got hit, it hit him, and
it was just brilliant. It was one of the best nights of football I've had on the turf. But that Borough game for me, I have not heard noise like that equaliser at 97th minute as there was that night. I think the roof nearly came in the cricket field, and it was just absolutely superb noise. I think one thing that we'll touch on just about the noise as well is that we are trying to working with the football club to improve things at the turf. So we are hoping that we're going to get there with the club and try and improve the match day atmosphere, which, we've not had some bad atmospheres, but I think we just need to, as fans, I think we all need to crank it up a notch.
Yeah, we do.
We did touch on it the last podcast that we did, that you really need to get behind these lads. I mean, yeah, I know the Huddersfield game wasn't great. The Cardiff game wasn't great. The Wolves one, yeah, we know. We're all there, but we're still going back. We're all paying good money to watch it. Like, let's just make some noise, that noise level. If it's positive noise and, the atmosphere, there's a lot to be said about it at turf. And certainly now that we're getting towards winter, it's going to be dark. Get some Tuesday night games, get under lights. And, we all know how romantic it gets, and that atmosphere is better when it's dark. We've got to do it as fans. But I think, as we've said, we are trying to work with the football club to see what we can do together to try and improve it.
So hopefully, once we've had that meeting with the football club and been at Turf more loyal, if we can, once we've had that meeting and got that over the line, we will let you know in the next podcast of how it went and hopefully there's news from the football club as well to every single fan via email or whatever it is, that there's going to be changes en masse to create an atmosphere at Turf Moor.
The thing is as well, what we will say, that if there's anybody out there who's got this far and listened in, because I think this is certainly the longer of the podcast that we've done so far, and we know we have gone off on a tangent a little bit and gone on to different subjects this week, but if you've got any input whatsoever as to the kind of things that you'd like to see at the Turf, we've had some...
Anything you'd like to hear on this podcast as well?
Certainly with the atmosphere, we had some wacky suggestions, anything from, somebody wants a drum, somebody doesn't want a drum. Anything at all. Chuck us suggestions
our
way.
The Bob Lord with their pipe tobacco.
Yeah,
you got any drum?
We can't be having rattling flasks and waving tartan blankets. So if they want to do that, by all means, get it going.
Bring the rattles back and fling them around the quick singers at the back of the cricket field.
I think one suggestion that I heard made as well, which might upset a few of the Bob Loaders, was whether, if at some point the cricket field is going to be redeveloped, whether the noisy rabble of the cricket field end could be housed in the Bob Lord. Purely acoustic reasons, I think, really, because of how that roof is very similar to the cricket field and holds the noise in. And certainly when I've been on reserve games in that stand, it's all a bit racket. It'd be quite a good stand to get Burnley fans in there, really. And I think the combat that we've got is when you've got 2,000 away fans, a couple of thousand home fans in there. We just need to make sure that we're doing our bit to keep that atmosphere going.
Of course, obviously we're not trying to say that there is this the family element at the club as well. You've got people going on with kids. We're not expecting you to be up, jumping about, singing and dancing. Obviously you're trying to set an example and stuff like that. But on the contrary to that,
throw your kid at air. We don't mind.
Yeah.
And I always remember going up to with my dad as 10, 11-year-old lad, and that was my release. Was Saturday. Make as much noise as you want, make as much racket as you want. Get up, jump up, sing, shout, get behind them. That's what it's all about. We want to see that next generation of Burnley fans coming through, and if we can, I think the football club can, keep doing the work that they're doing with, certainly the Burnley Football Club in the community, working with the local schools. And growing the club's profile in terms of getting that next generation of fan coming through. These kind of fans that we need, making the racket and getting ready for 10, 15 years when they reach our age, and they're going out for a few shandies before the game and going on there making a bit of racket and all the rest of it. This is what we want. We want that lifeblood of the club to remain within that short few mile radius from the turf, because a lot's been said over the years that it's the heartbeat of this town, and I really do think that's true. So I think we just need to make sure that as fans, we're doing everything we can to make it as rowdy, intimidating, and as horrible for away teams as we can, really.
So on that note, I think we've covered.
I think that's covered enough for this week, hasn't it?
Yeah, of course it has.
We'll get ready for the next one, and hopefully, if you're still here, then thank you. We appreciate your support. Appreciate you listening this far.
It's been a long one
as this. What we will say is, if there's anybody out there who wants to appear on one of the podcasts, the idea is that we'll be inviting guests as sort of fan appearances on the podcast. So if you want to get involved, by all means, drop us a message. If logistically it's possible for us to get you recording, we'll certainly get you involved.
Also, don't forget that on Friday, the competition on Facebook, that's on Facebook. So all you on Twitter, all you Twitter listeners, please do head to Facebook and like the page, which is the Cricket Field End, because there's going to be a competition on there this Friday. So please keep your eyes peeled for that.
Just to reiterate, it is on a Facebook only competition. It won't be appearing on Twitter. We'll be honest, we're just trying to grow the presence of the Facebook page, just so that there's getting a bit more sort of activity on there. So it is a Facebook only competition. The prize is going on Friday, 12th of October, so make sure you're getting entering, guys.